Well, I didn't want to be a starving artist, so I decided to go into advertising because that's a way to be creative and make money.
Stephen Thomas and I have known each other for years here in Dallas, long enough that I've watched his artistic journey unfold in real time. From our conversations at the Dallas Eagle to sitting down in his studio for this interview, I've seen his celebration art evolve from those early Christmas card designs into the vibrant, electric portraits that now fill galleries and homes across the city. These are the pieces where Marilyn Monroe and Princess Leia suddenly have rainbow hair that dances right off the canvas, where Taylor Swift, Tina Turner, and Betty Davis get reimagined through a distinctly queer lens. He was inspired by artists like Andy Warhol, Leroy Neiman, and Peter Max, masters of bold, flat colors and tight-cropped portraits, and naturally gravitated toward primary and secondary colors, colors of the rainbow. What started as a simple aesthetic choice has evolved into something much deeper, art that refuses to whisper when it could sing. At 61, Stevens navigated that interesting space between his day job and advertising and his artistic calling. He's part of a generation that came out later in life, bringing decades of creative experience to work that celebrates identity without apology. His mustache has become part of his brand, naturally flowing into his logo, because why wouldn't it? But what really drew me to this conversation was something Stephen said about art being therapy, about wanting people to learn how to dance and celebrate. In a world that can feel pretty heavy, there's something revolutionary about choosing joy as your medium. This is Art in the Raw. All right. Well, welcome to the show. Happy to have you. Been looking forward to interviewing you on this because we've been friends for a while, but and we've chatted about art off and on, but I don't know that I've ever really kind of dug into like your background in art and your process in the way that we're going to today. So I'm looking forward to it. Share kind of the moment or experience that you had when you first realized that like that art was going to be your way of expressing the world around you. Like, when did you figure out art is going to be your thing?
I think the first moment, the first event that made me think about it was seeing an Aptitude. And when I was in elementary school, you have the parties for holidays and stuff like that. And you do the creativity work and, it's all that. I knew I loved doing all of that stuff. All the creative stuff was way more interesting than math and all that. But teachers kept saying I had an aptitude for it and for things artistic. So, fast forward a couple of years and they taught us soap sculpture. I'd never heard of soap
sculpture.
Yeah. And I did a fish or something and I won first place in the contest. So I'm like, okay, that art is cool. I enjoy doing this and being recognized for it. And then, as the years went on and on into high school, I would do a lot of sketching and stuff, and did everything in regular number 2 pencil. I didn't really have all the tools that I normally see artists use, but I used what I had, right? So I did kind of photorealistic sketches of, my nieces and things like that, and a girl across the room from me or whatever. But it wasn't until much later that I kind of thought, hey, I could do this for a living. I've always been an artist since very young, but never thought of it as a career until I was in college. And I was like, let me see, because I had who knows what they're going to do when they go into college at 18, and nobody gives them any guideposts. So I went in and under general whatever studies and until I figured out what I wanted to do. And I was like, okay, I've already been an artist. So how can I make that into a living? Well, I didn't want to be a starving artist. So I decided to go into advertising because I was like, that's a way to be creative and
get paid for it.
Money, right? And of course, you're making all the money for somebody else. But
Yeah.
It was a good steady job, and I've been doing that. It's funny, I'm one of the few people in my friend group uh through college that actually went into the study that they graduated with. So I graduated with a journalism degree with marketing minor specializing in advertising. And
Oh,
I've
okay.
worked in the advertising field my whole career. I have a lot of people that, go through and graduate as an accountant and then they run off and do something else, HR or something,
Where
but
did you go to school?
Texas A&M University, College Station, Texas. So my dad
Gig 'em.
went there and graduated at 56. And so I went there and I graduated in 86.
Mhm. Did you grow up in the Dallas area or
Yeah, well, lived in Arlington like almost all my life. I was born in Dallas in 1963, 7 days before JFK was shot.
wow.
So I've been
Oh,
under
well,
a
happy
lot
birthday.
of
Your
press.
birthday's coming up.
Yeah, you're right. It's next week. Yeah, so I'll be turning 62 and, now I'm looking at retirement and, all those options. But in the meantime, I'm, getting the art out of my body and also still working in the advertising industry. But yeah, so I grew up and was raised in Arlington, went to Lamar High School, and went off to college at Texas A&M. I graduated college. A few years later, I got married to a woman, and we were married for 7 years, and then
I
that
don't
didn't
think I
work
knew that
out.
about you.
So after my divorce, I kind of came out, I was 34 when I came out. So,
Wow.
and most of my clients worked in Dallas area. So I ended up moving to Dallas, so I didn't have to like travel back and forth so much. And so I'm kind of I've lived in Arlington and Fort Worth and Dallas, and I've done the full circle of the Metroplex, and I don't need to go anywhere else.
So, as you were growing up, were there any, like, particular artists or experience that kinda shaped how you see your role as an artist today or shaped your artistic
Yeah,
styles?
yes. I was absolutely drawn to anything Andy Warhol. He was in his heyday when I was in my formative years, and I loved the close up portraits, tight crop. Um, the flat colors, that sort of thing. That's kind of where I get my inspiration from. Leroy Neiman, Peter Max. Their styles are very bright colors, and there's the impressionist side, and there's the surrealist kind of side. I'm a big fan of Salvador Dali's stuff. I mean, and it's hyper
Is that where
surrealistic.
you get the mustache?
It's funny you would think so, but I just decided to do the mustache. But a lot of people think it's because I like Salvador Dali, but I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll buy that." But no, I could never grow a thick mustache, but I could grow a long mustache, so that's kind of why I grow it long like this. So
There you go. I like how you y blend your mustache and your art style into your logo.
yeah, that's
It's
it was
a
a
cute little gimmick.
natural branding decision. I was
Yeah.
like, I did it as I was like, oh, I wonder, looking in the mirror one day, what that would look like in my art style, and so I did that, and then I made T-shirts out of it, and then I was like, yeah, that needs to be my logo. So there it was. It
Yep.
was
I
born,
think it's on the
and
back of my
I'm
shirt.
all about branding. Yep, there you are.
First time I've ever turned around on camera. People saw the back of my head for the first time. I'm bald
But
all the way back, people. So you said that you're kind of in the corporate marketing, media realm as part of your day job, right?
yeah,
I assume you do lots of I know you do lots of digital art because I know you're very good with Photoshop and digital art. Do you blend the digital into your art styles as well, or you stick mostly with the ink and acrylic for your art?
Oh, I stick with the ink and acrylic, and I design on the computer because, I when I was younger, I was doing sketching all the time, and I kinda just evolved out of that when I started doing art professionally
Mhm.
for advertising. Because I was now on the Mac, and I was using Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop and, Quark Express and Freehand and, uh, you know, all these different, programs when I started my professional career. So the fun part of the art kind of took a back seat, and I never, like, sketched as much anymore. And so I use Adobe Illustrator almost exclusively now when I do my art, and I create my art, and actually I old school printed out on a transparency. I've got an old school transparency overhead projector, and I
Wow.
project it onto the canvas, and then I trace it out loosely, and then I paint it onto the canvas. So, because I've also noticed that as I've gotten older, I'm a little bit more ADHD and a little OCD. So I uh, I don't have the patience for, like, putting the line in the wrong place and having to erase it, and then having, moving it and moving it and moving it on canvas like so many people do.
Yeah.
So I like to have it already set, and I've already got the colors established where they're going to be. And because on Illustrator, I can just click it and change the color until I get it balanced how I want it. So that way I could just put it up onto canvas, and I don't have to retrace anything.
Yeah. So you know before you start putting it on canvas what color each braid of hair is
Absolutely.
going to be. Um,
Absolutely.
and for those of the audience who are only listening to the audio version, in the video version, you can see some of Steven's art on the wall behind him. And I'll show you some of his art here as we edit and go along as well. Um, Speaking of which, a lot of your art focuses on kind of these modern interpretations of classic popular icons, kind of like Andy Warhol did. Um, is that what drew you to reimagining those figures? You're like of Andy Warhol, and
It
or how did you
was.
decide?
It all started with, and there's a picture on my website of Santa. I I designed a Christmas card, for a company that I was working for at the time.
Mhm.
That was a printer, and they had just bought a 4-color printer, and they wanted to tell all of their clientele that, hey, we can do more than just business cards now. We can do 4-color, process. And so I did this Santa Claus, in the Milton Glaser style. Milton Glaser, if you don't know who he is the guy who designed the I Heart New York logo, designed the look of the Campbell's soup cans. He was big in advertising. I've kind of patterned my career after him, which is interesting. During college, I went to see him speak and show examples of his career work.
Mhm.
And he did a very famous poster for a concert for what's his name?
Yeah. I'm gonna have to look it up and
A folk singer, big popular. Anyway, he did a poster, and it was a side profile of the face was black. It was like a silhouette, and then all of the hair made these musical swirls all around his head and back, like the wind was blowing through his hair and the music was coming through him. And that kind of style stuck with me, and I thought, well, how would that interpret if I did portraits of people in the Andy Warhol style, but use that technique in a way to use the primary and secondary colors. I never really um, set out to make it queer art. I just love the primary, secondary colors, the colors of the rainbow. And I'm like, okay, well, people respond to it in different ways, but it really is queer art because it's celebrating the rainbow
Yeah.
and it's
And lots of gay
queer
icons.
icons.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it came from, and I had designed that the Christmas card, and I won several awards for it in the printing industry, and I kind of had that in the back of my brain for several years, and then about COVID, I decided to start really doing more because it was all in my head. You know how something gets in your head and you just
Uh-huh.
gotta express
Get
it
it
some
out.
way. So I started doing that, and people have really responded to it, and I've been very, very blessed that people like it so much.
Yeah. There's another art podcast that I like to listen to called Talk Art. Um, and one of the questions that they always ask their art guests at the end of their episode is, if you could do an art heist, what art would you steal? And I'm here to tell you right now that if I can get inside your apartment and steal that Princess Leia behind you, I would do it.
Well, she's for sale.
There you go. We'll have to talk a deal.
Absolutely.
How do you decide which icons are worth your attention when you're doing one of these?
It it really kind of has to move me a little bit. I've got a whole long list. I keep adding to the list, and then I've got friends who go, "Oh, but have you done J Lo or somebody?" And I'm like, "I've got her on my list, but it kind of my mood swings one way or another based on what which way the wind is blowing at the time."
Yeah.
A lot of my stuff is commission work, so I'm very blessed to have a lot of commissions. And I don't keep a lot of inventory of paintings around me. Most of it is because someone has asked me specifically to paint a specific person like J Lo or Marilyn Monroe or whoever, and so she's already paid for before I'm done. And so I've been very blessed in having a continuation of a lot of commissions. But that doing that may spark an interest in, oh well, I didn't think about Judy Garland or whatever. And I yes, I want to do Judy Garland, but I haven't yet because she's got so many eras
Hmm.
to choose from, and it's
Which
like,
one do you pick?
do I pick Dorothy? Do I pick her later years when she's near the end of her career and she's doing that solo touring and belting them out? And it's like, I really enjoyed how my Tina Turner came out, where she's
Hmm.
singing with the microphone and you can kind of get caught in that moment that she's doing. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of where I'm going to go with Judy, but I think I'm also going to do another Judy because I have I'll just a secret with you and me and the people that are listening. I'm thinking about doing Judy as the gingham witch. We've got the good witch of the north and the wicked witch of the west, and there's that classic line: "Are you a good witch or a bad witch?" And I was like, I'm gonna see if I can figure out
Gingham Witch.
Dorothy, a gingham witch.
I love it.
So to be
And
done.
um, so there is something I think maybe a little vulnerable about putting your own spin on these icons, because a lot of people have these preconceived notions and strong feelings about certain icons. Um, have you ever felt like a fear of, what if they hate what I've done to this, or what if people have a bad reaction to it, or
No, I've never actually thought much about that. I'm like, I get it. Not everybody loves a rainbow, and there's a large segment of the queer population that's not really big into rainbow stuff. They want to live their life and out loud and be queer, but don't wave the banner. And and sometimes it's hard to decorate around a rainbow. So
Yeah.
I happen to have a lot of gray, and then I've got accent pillows in different colors, but that's me. So I knew going in my style of art is not for everybody.
Yeah.
But the people who do enjoy it a lot. So it's just like life, you're not everybody's going to like the same thing. So but I've never had any negative connotations on any of my interpretations of these icons. I think everybody has really appreciated it for what it is. You can tell just by looking at it what the intention is, right? So I've been very blessed in them.
Yeah. So we talked a few minutes ago about you work primarily with the acrylic and the ink on the canvas. Um, what what drew you to those materials? Why those materials as opposed to oils or watercolor or something
Because
else?
I don't have the patience for oils. It's really, I I dabbled in oils in my teens, and I didn't really like it that much. I had to wait so long for it to dry. And then in the meantime, where do I put it? Because there's no place to keep it. So it was very limiting for me. And back then, 100 years ago, um, oils were had more vibrancy to them. The colors were richer, and so anybody that does want to do, vibrant, bright colors would typically go toward oils. But um, and modern techniques and modern acrylics are really well done, and you know it takes a few hours to dry instead of a few days.
Yeah.
Well,
Um,
it's patience.
so you do kind of have a couple different styles. You've got the style that we've just been talking about with the rainbow hair, and then you've got the ones that you kind of see on my shirt and on your shirt with the cowboys kissing. Um, and they're quite distinctive, two different styles. How do you go back and forth between each style, or do you go through phases where you've done one style and you just leave it behind and move on to something else?
These two styles. Years ago, I did a wood panel. Actually, I cut it out and painted it, and it's in this style. But it was of the 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 main poster image for Giant, the movie, and where he's leaning in the car and he's got his feet up. And I still have that. It's in my garage. But it's kind of it's that same, in many ways, as you'll see a lot of influences between them. Um, in the fact that it's a very stark contrast between highlights and lowlights, the shadows and the white edges of the highlighting. So it's still that style. It's just not focusing on the hair like the women that. And I've got a George Michael that is in the same style as the women because he's got that iconic hair. So
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
kind of depends on if they have the hair to show, or in this case, it's just the image strikes me. And it just kind of depends on what the message is and what's behind it. These were actually commissioned by a client of mine in Kentucky, that bought a new house, and he wanted me to design his new play space. So that's where these, leather bound cowboy images are have come from. So I'm just waiting to deliver them, figure out logistics of that. But yeah, it just kind of depends.
So you talked a little bit about doing those commissions and how it has influenced some of your styles. The shirt that you're wearing right now. How does doing working on a client's vision differ from creating your own icon based work?
It it's collaboration for sure. It's, you know, uh, you look for some images on the internet, I'll look for some images on the internet. We'll get together and talk about which fills your needs the best and which style. Pick some random photograph that's out there on the web, and then I'll take that and do my interpretation of it, or I'll take two or three images and put them together, or whatever works to get the image that you have in your mind and the image that I have in my mind, and we'll make it work out. So it's heavy. They tend to just leave it all up to me, but I always make sure that I'm going in the right direction that they want, because ultimately they're the ones that are going to live with it.
Yeah, they're paying for it. They're going to live with it.
The
You
ones that
want
I
to
do
make
that
them
are
happy.
non-commission are fun to do, but I don't know if they're going to sell or not. I don't know if anybody's going to love it like I do. But I do those, and I've got several of them hanging on my walls that I bring out to shows every once in a while. And if somebody wants it, great. If not, then I'm happy to keep it on my walls.
What's your favorite piece that you've done?
I, um, my favorite one, because it changes, and it also changes on depending on my mood at the time. But one of my favorites is my Betty Davis, which you see over the sofa. My husband was like, I want a Betty Davis, and I want it just to cover that whole wall. And I'm like, okay, cool. So that's 10 feet. And he's like, we're not selling it. It's for us. And I'm like, okay, cool.
Have
There's
you
one
done
that
an Agatha Christie for your husband yet?
no, Agatha Christie is kind of a sacred space for him, and he he doesn't want one with rainbow hair. And she never had a hairstyle that would be appropriate anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Not a lot of people know what she looks like. So,
yeah, she had
sh-
just short 20s. She was an older woman when she was writing and everything. But one that I did recently, I really loved, and has people have responded to, is Taylor Swift. Somebody was like, "Hey, you need to do a Taylor Swift," and I'm like, "Okay," but I've looked for there again. You look all over the internet for the right image, and I had to put three different images together to come up with
oh, wow.
the Taylor Swift that I put out there. Because I wanted that swept up hair, but it had to be a side swipe, and it's just
I feel like Taylor Swift was an inevitability. Like you were going to end up making a Taylor Swift
yeah, it was
for
it,
this community at some point,
it
somewhere
was
along the lines.
definitely going to happen. Yeah, it just kind of it depends on how it evolves. I don't force it, or you know do anything. Some it I have to find an image or images that I can put together that make that icon quintessentially them, and recognizable, because that's what
Yeah.
people like, is they want to know that it's Marilyn Monroe. They want to know that it's Princess Leia. So you have to find an image that shows them. Like I tried to do um Olivia Newton-John, and the picture that I started with was an image from Xanadu, because she looked beautiful in that movie, and it was so her, and she was singing right to the camera. And when I started doing it, I was like, I could tell right away. I didn't even get halfway done with it. I'm like, this is the wrong image to do, because sometimes a generic blonde chick is just a generic blonde chick, because
Yeah.
you have to find parts of that person that are almost a caricature
Hmm.
for it to be so recognizable. That's why Taylor Swift ended up being three different pictures that I put together, because she had to have the bangs swept to the side, or else it wouldn't quite be
Wouldn't be
her.
Taylor
But once I
Swift.
got the eyes right, then it was game on. So I will do Olivia Newton-John at some point, but just not that one that I had chosen that didn't work out.
So have you experienced kind of challenges with your art related to being a queer artist that you've had to fight against? And nowadays, probably not, but in the past, when you first got started, did you get pushback for doing gay art?
Um, Not really. It's not like I said, it's not everybody's thing, and all of the art shows that I have been involved in have been a very what is it, accepting, open-minded group of people who love it for the art, and they understand that there's queer art and there's non-queer art, and a rainbow should really be for everybody, right?
Absolutely.
I've got a Barbara Streisand that I'm staring at right now, and it's classic gay icon Barbara. But there's a lot of non-gay people who love Barbara Streisand.
Well, yeah,
So it just
she
kind
wouldn't
of
be as popular as she is
it
without that.
depends on who appeals to who. Because I get that a lot where they say, "Oh, I really love the Marilyn Monroe that you did, but can you do Kylie Minogue?" And I'm like, "Of course I can do Kylie Minogue. If you want to commission me to do a Kylie, then I will do a Kylie." So I did a Kylie and sent it off to a guy in Florida. Loves it. So
Nice.
kind of depends.
So as you look ahead, look forward, what kind of dreams or goals do you have for your art?
I would like to see more people have my art, enjoy my art, have it on their walls. Whether it's gonna make me rich or not is um beside the point. I like sharing my interpretation of these icons that I grew up with, and the new ones that are coming out. um sure, I want to make a buttload of money too, but it's not my full-time job. It's kind of what I was planning to do in my retirement.
Yeah,
And
I was just about to ask you about
now that
that.
I'm 62 or about to be, I'm thinking, geez, I don't have the energy for art shows. So
That's a
maybe
lot of
I
work.
was it's a lot of work in a very short amount of time to do art shows. But I've got my website. People can buy T-shirts and prints of these paintings that I've already done for other people that have already been commissioned. So
We'll put
there's
links down in the
plenty.
show notes for people who want to buy.
Yeah, right. There's plenty of ways for you to have my art and enjoy it without having to spend a bundle on a commission piece. But I enjoy doing them no matter what, so it's gonna keep coming out of me at some point. So
What advice would you give to emerging artists today trying to navigate traditional and digital art worlds? You kind
good
of
question.
stride both of those.
I have actually kind of to back up, uh, related to that last question. I have had a couple of comments, nothing negative, but just people wondering about the fact that I work on the computer to create these images. Is that cheating? And I'm like, no, because I'm still creating it. I'm just using the tool that I use every day of my life in my full time job. Um, so art is art. Uh, Even if you're using AI or something like that, art is art because you're still telling it what to do and all that stuff. There comes a point where it's not your art. If you're just going to be printing out what the computer did for you, I can see both sides of the coin there simply because I design on the computer, but I don't use AI. Never have, never need to. Um, but on the flip side, if you're using AI to create something just so that you can physically see it and it gives you inspiration and a go by that you can use, then it's no different than what I do is when I find images and I use those as inspiration to create mine. So
It's all
all
a
of
matter of
art,
how you use a tool.
all of art is a gray area, and the computer as well as anything else is a tool. How you use the tool and the end result of what you do with those tools is your
Is what
creation.
matters.
So how you got there isn't as important as the end result, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. All right. So before we wrap up, it's time for my favorite part of the show. These are the quick fire round of questions inspired by Inside the Actor Studio. I don't know if you've ever watched that show, Stephen.
Yeah, I have.
But I added a little bit of a queer creative twist to them. So no overthinking, just kind of your first raw, honest answers. Are you ready?
Sure.
All right. I think I know the answer to this first one. What's your favorite artistic medium or tool?
That would be Adobe Illustrator because I can move lines without going crazy.
See, I thought you were going to say acrylic and ink.
Well, I mean, that's
Well,
the
both.
ultimate medium, yes,
Yeah.
but the design
The
process,
tool.
yeah.
Yeah. What artistic trend or cliche do you wish would disappear?
I am really tired of seeing AI videos on Facebook and being being presented as real. And they're all over the place. You know, that one of you know who in the fighter jet, that kind of stuff. There's enough going on without that stuff.
Yeah. That's when AI is more of a political tool than it is an artistic one, I
Yeah,
think.
because AI is fascinating. I've used AI in my full-time job if I'm having to add background edges to a photograph that, you know, the vice president was cut off in this, you know, event photo and you need to like add a shoulder and some background. It saves a lot of time, but other than that sort of thing, I don't use it. A lot of people use it for sparking ideas when they're writing and just to getting through a writing stump. I mean, like there again, it's how you use the tool.
Yep. What fuels your creativity the most?
My friends, um, watching old movies. I I'm an old movie guy. I watch old black and white movies all the time, and there's some that come on and you're just glued to the TV. You know, we all have them. It's classics like that make me go, you know, I need to do her. And I mean artistically, of course.
What sound or noise instantly inspires you?
Sound or noise. I Christmas music of all things. Just because I love Christmas music, I'm one of those. I have not started the Christmas music yet. Too early. But I don't know. It's just again classic songs, maybe.
What sound or noise completely kills your focus?
Toilet flush. I don't
I
know.
usually get horns and sirens. I've not got somebody to say a toilet flush yet.
I was like, it depends on what I'm doing at the time and if I'm working in the middle of something creative and here. Horns honking, sirens,
What is your speaking of?
right. That's gonna be annoying. You're gonna have to edit that out.
What is your favorite word or phrase to include in your work? Literally.
That art is for everybody. I like for people to think of my art as a celebration. That's that's where the bright colors come from. That's the contrast of the darkness of the black background, the starkness of the contrast in the face and the shadows. Um, I I think life should be a celebration. I'm just as depressive as anybody else. I get it. I go into a hole, here and there when the day's news is getting out of hand. But um, I like the the images that I create. I think give people something to celebrate. Just a feeling of lightness, and there are other things in the world that are not as heavy.
And we need more of that in the world, I think. If you could see any queer artist, living or dead, honored with a major public monument, who would it be?
Andy Warhol.
I would think that he maybe has a monument somewhere, someplace.
I would not be surprised. I mean, he had the factory, and he had all of his works with Basquiat, who also was amazing, and the two of them together were amazing. Um,
And Herring.
yes, all of the the queer artists who m- made queer art before queer art was okay, and now are being recognized for that and celebrated. Uh, it, there's a long list.
I just did uh, recorded an episode that's coming out soon with a scholar whose work focuses on decoding the queer code in art. And so he goes through art from the past all the way back into the dark ages and before to show how people who were potentially queer identifying coded their art to show that without being explicit. That'll be a fascinating conversation too.
Da Vinci,
Um,
a lot of stuff like that.
uh-huh. Yep. What is one profession or creative field you can never see yourself in?
Creative field that I could never see myself in.
Profession or creative field.
I don't know. I could see myself in a lot of things. Whether anybody else could or not is a different answer. I At this point, I love to sing. I used to sing with the Turtle Creek Chorale for 14 years, and um, enjoyed it immensely. And uh, I could see myself in a musical career had I been younger and started, back then. But today, I couldn't possibly see myself in that kind of arena because it is so cutthroat. And I appreciate the music and the personalities and all of that, but I'm an old man. I don't have the patience for that anymore.
Far behind you. If your art could take on a life of its own, what form would it take?
Uh, I would hopefully see it as a therapy. Um, it, I don't know. I mean, if I'm reading too much into it, like based on being a celebration, I would hope that it could help those who need it. You know, life is too short, and if it can do something for someone, then all the better. And I try to live that way, if as I can. Whenever there's a uh, art show with a charity auction, I always contribute, and it's just
We
do-
appreciate that.
things should be things should make people happy.
Yeah. And I think you basically just answered the next question, the last of our questions. 100 years from now, what do you hope your art says about you to those who find it?
That he learned how to dance and celebrate. That I try to bring people into my circle to have a good time and be happy, and I want them to do the same with others, and, it all starts with one person, so, you know, we all need to look out for each other.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I'm thank you for joining me on this episode. Been looking forward to sitting you down and having a conversation with you about your art. So I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, I appreciate it. I'm glad we were able to finally get this done.
Yeah, me too.